Africa is now mostly celebrating its 50th anniversary. Most of countries are getting grown-ups of 50. We are celebrating the dream of our forefathers who were able to develop a foresight whereby this continent was still, covered by all sorts of flags, and they dared to dream that Africa could be free. Africans could take their destiny in their hands. And that process has overturned, in some cases, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years of colonization. It was overturned by those visionary forefathers of us. Many of them now are gone. Very few are still with us. Now, freedom is in our hands. But we have, as Africans, challenges which eventually are much more complex and much more difficult to tackle than just to say, these are foreigners, they have to go, and we have to claim, just our right to lead our lives. 21st century, the world has evolved in unprecedented ways in terms of science, in terms of technology, including communication. But we are Africans in this. Are we really in the 21st century? Many millions of our fellow Africans, in terms of assets and to benefit from those advances of science and technology and communication, etc., some of them, they are still in 18th century. They don't have access to electricity. They don't know what electricity is. Some of them are still drinking water from wells which, millions and millions, they just can't read and write. And whether they can use a cell phone to communicate, but the reality is that the use of cell phone will be limited because they can't just read and write, and they know how to dial to communicate, but that's all. So this continent of ours is a huge contradiction. I mean, we made strides, as I said, to overturn colonialism, but we are a contradiction in terms of we are lagging far behind other regions of the globe. We, as Africans, we still have a big challenge. I'm sorry to take a bit of minutes on this. We have still a big challenge to fill the gap in terms of claiming our own identity. When we say Africans, many times we just believe that because millions of us have dark skin, millions of us, they were born here. They may be like Irene, but their fathers and forefathers were born here. They are Africans. But who are we talking about when we say we Africans? In terms of our own identity, the diversity of identities we have, particularly when this is, is mapped in those designs which were not ours. We are ruling our states on the basis of the Berlin Conference. But does the Berlin Conference has anything to do with if I take Southern Africa, the social groups which exist in Southern Africa? They are so mixed that you find them in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Tanzania, etc., etc. Mixed. That has nothing to do with the borders which are governing, our states. So when you say identity, even when you say, let's come to SADC now, when you say SADC, we as SADC, are we SADC like those borders, or are we SADC, we the people? But do we know exactly what faith we have, what languages we do speak, what are our social institutions, etc., etc.? I'm trying to be a little bit complex at the beginning to introduce this, to bring to the point of saying, you know what, we are at a time of asking hard questions in terms of who we are. How do we claim our history? But how do we reconnect with ourselves in terms of our history, in terms of our cultural heritage, in terms of giving value to our ways of organizing ruling societies, and this to be connected with the impact of the Berlin Conference. We cannot ignore it, but we shouldn't be only defined by what is the result of the Berlin Conference in the continent of Africa. It can't work. And apparently, this is one of the reasons why, although we try in different ways in terms of development, we are not winning. Africa is not winning. And we are not winning precisely because we have at least 2 layers of organizing society which are moving without communicating and without impacting within each other. Hundreds and millions of Africans have nothing to do with the modern state we are talking about. And some of those who are in the modern state, they have been derooted from what the millions, hundreds of millions are, but they are the leaders of today. They are the ones who are leading, but they have been derooted. They have had no connection. There's no real, serious, inclusive development which is going to happen in this continent if you don't ask those hard questions. Let me come to universities very quickly. We aim at having a tertiary education system which is to build the bridge between what other people, part of the human race in other continents have achieved, and we, with these diversities I talk about, where we still have people in 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, and the 21st century, but we need to have a bridge, and universities are that bridge. That no matter how we have to move, asking these questions and finding answers to ourselves, we can't lose the train. We have to be part of the train. So our universities have that responsibility of helping us to reclaim ourselves in terms of identity, but at the same time keeping us abreast and together with the rest of human race.